Hey out there, this is Thursday, October 17th, 2019. And it is just about 1 minute before 9 in the morning here in Northern California. And I will get into a lot of different stuff as usual today. As far as the theme goes, I might be all over the place, but of course, it's important to me to help people identify how they're being tyrannized, what's bugging them. And I try to focus on the invented, artificial, manufactured forms of unnecessary suffering as examples of how you're being tyrannized. And it primarily has everything to do with money. The fact that this is the one arena where we're not allowed to be free. And how important it is in the scheme of attaining happiness, true, lasting happiness. The human being innately strives to be free. It's an instinct that he cannot relent because it's so important, so imperative to his sense of peace and joy and contentment, safety, security, and all the good things that we all want. But if we're not free, then we are by default enslaved. And that's what I want people to understand, how you're being enslaved. Now, we have to differentiate between artificial, manufactured, unnatural human suffering and organic, necessary, across the board suffering. Because we all must experience a lot of organic suffering, and there's not a lot we can do about that except to pray, to seek wisdom from the sages, and that sort of thing, to help you cope and contend with what none of us can escape. I mean, just the sense of loneliness that people feel sometimes, the sense of dread that people feel sometimes. And these things affect all of us. We can't help it. I mean, the idea of losing somebody we love more than we love ourselves, and where we'd rather die than that person die, yet we don't have that prerogative. That's all in God's hands. So there's a lot of letting go and turning over involved in contending with organic suffering. And it is a big deal. And while it's not my main complaint, I like to stay focused on the invented artificial suffering, because this is something we could do something about. It's caused by the people of this world. But nonetheless, that's not to minimize the effect that organic suffering has on all of us. I mean, it's a real pain in the ass. I mean, I don't know how to put it gently. I hate a lot of things about organic suffering. I'm a landscaper. I hate the fact there's thorns on roses. It pisses me off. I get poked by a rose and I think, what kind of an a-hole is God? But then I know better. I know what went wrong. And what I can tell people is it's right there at the beginning of the scriptures. Yes, the Bible, in the book of Genesis, explains what went wrong, okay? Because nothing is as God intended it to be for us. It's all been adulterated. It's all been contaminated with this fall of man, the original sin, and this partaking of this tree of knowledge of good and evil. That pissed God off so much, it hurt him so much, he wished he didn't even create us. Well, we've got to understand the degree that this affected us and everything about our planet, and all the flora and all the fauna was affected by it. It's written that a woman's childbearing pains were greatly increased, and we can all say, well, I can understand that. I mean, God could have made a baby the size of a mouse, and that wouldn't hurt a lady. So why didn't he? Well, I mean, see, something went terribly wrong. And we should all be very glad that God didn't just give up on us because we wouldn't exist. So at least we can all say we at least exist and we're part of some big cosmic tapestry. We can know that on its face. I mean, it's obvious there's something really wondrous going on that we're a part of as human beings. These children of God made in God's image and likeness with this unlimited potential to think, to imagine, and to make manifest whatever it is that we desire, that we can imagine. And it's really a very cosmic thing. These human creatures are very unique from all the other creatures in that regard. So, but something went wrong. If you can imagine not having any of the organic problems that we have, then it's not a stretch to imagine that God already figured that out, and that's the way it was supposed to be. So you take one at a time, one problem at a time, and you say, well, what about natural disasters? I mean, certainly that has to happen. That's just organic part of the earth and all that. And, well, yeah, it's organic and part of the earth, but does it have to be like that? Okay. Do people have to perish in natural disasters? And the answer is no. And God has control over the planet and what goes on, so there's no real purpose. We don't need it. We don't even need the rain. If we had springs coming up like it was originally intended, we wouldn't have a problem. Springs everywhere, fresh water coming out of the ground. You would never even need to have it rain. You understand? So if we think it through, we could think of a solution to all the organic problems. I mean, how hard is it to imagine a rose without thorns? I mean, what do you think? God just, God never thought of that, or he just incompetent. Why did he put thorns on it? And people say, well, it keeps the predators away. It doesn't keep the predators away. It doesn't keep the insects away. It doesn't keep the diseases away. And it doesn't keep predators like deer or goats away. So the thorns are, for all intents and purposes, useless in terms of protecting the plant. So that's to suggest also that the plant has a brain. I mean, we've heard of plants acclimatizing, but that's a long period of time. That is kind of an evolutionary thing that God likely built into a plant, that certain plants can adapt to a climate that's not endemic, native to where they came from. But that's something God built into it. But any form of organic suffering, let's take the extreme heat, the extreme cold. I mean, if we're talking about the God, the creator of the universe and everything contained therein, and certainly he could make the temperature, 75 to 80. I think most humans, let's go for that all the time, 24/7. And when necessary, we could have a slight breeze, gentle breeze blowing. But we can all agree, we could have a consensus and agree, yeah, well, that's right. It would be better to have it like that. And the heat, no brutal heat, no bitter cold. Yeah, why not? I can imagine that. How about insects that don't sting us? Not being threatened by arachnids or snakes or scorpions or any other creature out there that might even devour us. Okay, because these are a threat. And how about all the diseases? Can you imagine all these being gone? And then people would argue right away. They'd say, well, wait a minute, the earth would overpopulate. And then they're forgetting. I mean, come on, we're talking about the creator of the universe that gave us our fertility, the ability to procreate. Certainly, okay, God could remove our fertility, and then nothing's going to work. Artificial insemination, sperm banks are useless because there's no fertility. There's no viable fertility out there, period. So we cannot breed. So if we stop dying because there was no diseases, we never got old. We reached an age of about 32. Like people I trust suggest, that's somewhere around that age is ideal. Top of your game, right? Somewhere in that range. And then we stop dying. I mean, that's it. You stop aging. And your big job, your big challenge, my big challenge is to find something to do with our time. Okay, and we don't have to worry about the system not working, society, the wheels of society, in other words, and us serving one another. Okay, this whole idea has been concocted by the evildoers to get us thinking that, hey, we need Big Brother, and we need to keep our nose to the grindstone. We need to subjugate one another, and we need to have a one-up. We got to, think the way you're trained to think about this thing instead of the way God would have it be, where God says, no, I put an instinct in you that you can't escape, that you're not going to be gratified. You're not going to be content. You're not going to be satisfied unless you're utilizing the skills, the talents that I gave you. You must serve one another, or else you're going to be miserable. Okay? There's never been a decadent, self-serving, lazy slob in history that's ever been content and happy. You understand? So we're compelled by nature of instinct, God-given, godly instinct, to go out and do things for one another and utilize our God-given talents and be appreciated. We have a great love of being appreciated. So it's very normal. The system can't break down under God, under allowing God to rule our lives. So a little bit of faith. It's not written that you need a lot of faith, but just enough to believe it's all logical and makes sense. And then you see what a departure it is from this current paradigm, this so-called reality that's been shoved down our throats from birth, which doesn't make a semblance of sense. It's just stupid. It just, hey, willy-nilly, let's do this, let's do that. I mean, it's a big giant board game that we're all forced to play, okay, through this thing we euphemistically refer to as a cost. It's just your cost of living. No other creature has that burden. No other creature is beholden to some grand poobah that's going to dictate how it lives its life. No, it takes what it wants. It lives its life. It does what it does. And human beings, why are we an exception? I mean, we're vastly more intelligent than all the other creatures combined, and yet we're gonna submit to this kind of nonsense, that we're gonna accept our enslavement from birth and call it, hey, it's just necessary evil, or how would the system work without money? I mean, I just what I wasn't trained, does not compute, right? Because of our training. Right, I get it. Okay, but if we look at it very simply through God's point of view, something a child can understand, and just look at it purely, okay, from afar, okay, not just thinking outside the box, but way, way, way outside the box, through God's point of view, we're all God's equally beloved children. Logically speaking, God wants the best for his children, just like any parent wants for their children. And what does that mean? I mean, here I give you this planet, share it. So, what's this business with money? Who invented this crap? Look what it's done to you throughout the ages. The love of money. Look at all the evil. Look at history. What have you learned, people? I mean, isn't God wondering? You wonder what God's pissed off about? Look where we are at this point in history. The 21st century, I mean, Jesus predicted it'll be just like in the days of Noah. It's every man for himself. I mean, debauchery and madness everywhere. It's rampant. It's, you're the smart ones. If you amass a huge fortune, gobs of dough is the definition of success. I mean, we all know that most fame is comes with fortune. I mean, there's exceptions like Tesla, right? Where, guys like that probably reject fortune. They understand the loftier values, right, that God dictates. Like it's written, the things highly valued among men are detestable in the sight of God. If you really get it, then you get it. I mean, it's a big deal to get it. That prosperity, riches, wealth need not have a damn thing to do with money, but more of an understanding from God's point of view that he's trying to convey to us and empower us with that. So you understand, hey, screw anybody that says I'm chopped liver. I'm not. Neither are you or any of us. We're precious. We're treasures to God. And everybody's got to know that. They've got to embrace that and go forth and let other people know. And this is a big deal. I mean, you're special, very special. You're a godlike creature. And I know, just like every other human being, we feel 2 inches tall sometimes and 10 feet tall others.